Hello, hello. Welcome, Dan and David. H. Lawrence the 17th. How are you guys?
Let's be clear. It's not Dan H. Lawrence the 17th, as in Dan and David H. Lawrence the 17th. It's Dan O'Day. And I just want to be clear that we are not a couple.
Anymore.
Well,
Sadly, we're out of time now, but
goodbye then.
Hi, guys. It's so good to see your faces.
Cat Negretti, everybody. Dan, do you know how I know Cat Negretti?
Oh, do you remember the story?
Dan, do you know?
do I? No, I don't.
Cat,
Okay.
let people know.
So, gosh, this had to be like 16 years ago, maybe 17. And I was a working commercial actress in Los Angeles. And one of my commercials, the producer pulled me in and was like, hey, we need you to do some voiceover work. So, come to the studio. And I was like, how do you do voiceovers? I know how to do on-camera work, but I'm about to get paid. So I went to a seminar that Los Angeles, the Backstage conference that they have every year. And I went to the seminar with a panel of voiceover professionals. And every time the people asked them a question, not every time, but a lot of times, they would say, oh, that's a good question. Hey, David, do you know the answer to that question? And they would
wasn't
ask.
on the panel.
You
I
were not
wasn't
on the panel. No,
I
you were
was
in the audience. And
Yeah.
they kept referring to this guy in the audience because they didn't have the answers to this question. And I'm looking at this guy like, why isn't he on the panel?
Yeah.
And so I basically stalked David afterwards and just made a beeline. And I was like, do you have a class? I need to learn more about voiceovers from you. I didn't go to anyone on the panel. And he said, as it turns out, here's my card. And so I was going to your in-person classes for a while, and then life took me elsewhere, but I kept up online. And I basically stalked you, I'm proud to say.
Well, if I
I
had
don't
been
think
on that
stalking is
panel,
the
I,
right
I
phrase.
probably would have said, that question is so easy. We're going to let somebody from the audience answer. You, sir.
You, sir.
And speaking of which, if anyone is watching this from Los Angeles, please type in. In fact, wherever you're watching this from, please type in the city that you're watching from. I would love to know, or the country. I do have some international friends. Yes,
Pound those comments below what you're watching on, wherever you're
Please.
watching.
Please.
How many channels are you on right now? You're on Facebook, you're on YouTube,
And
you're on the
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yep. And then, I have other channels, but those were the three for today.
Okay.
So we're going to see how. I've never done a triple play. Woohoo, Fort Worth. That's where I just moved to a year ago. And it's almost going to be 1 year that we've been in Fort Worth. And I love it. Well, technically Roanoke, but we love it here. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So
I was in Flower Mound at some point.
you have to call me if you're in Flower Mound, because that's like 20, 30 minutes from us.
Yeah, I went to a theater for an appearance once, and people were very friendly. They said,
friendly.
"You want to go to Whataburger afterwards?" I'm like, "Yeah."
They're so friendly
Toronto.
here in Texas. Is someone from Toronto? Welcome.
Wait. Person from Toronto, can you see my shirt?
What does it say? Toronto, Canada.
No.
1050. It's the other side of your shirt.
1050 chum.
1050 chum. And if you're really from Toronto, you know what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
I am not in the loop.
It's the ground up fish that we throw into the ocean to attract other fish. That's what chum is. But
I thought it was a friend or a pal.
It's that too.
That too. I hadn't thought about it.
Welcome to Synonyms Are Up.
Can you tell I was an English major?
Yeah.
We could go on and on.
We could. So you guys, I do know Dan O'Day from the ACX audiobooks masterclass that I began to take, what was it, like in 2014? And then school started. I've been a teacher for decades. I now homeschool our 4 kids. And once school starts, everything else kind of goes by the wayside, which is why I'm so excited that this class is a home study class, that I can do it whenever I'm able to, usually after the kids go to bed. I know that I never had to go live during your live classes, but you always just want to go live. If everyone, it's the FOMO. And so now that I know, okay, predominantly the classes are just going to be when you can get to them, that makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah.
So thank you.
The home study version of the course, I think it might have just been an idea that Dan had the first year we did it. because we had people who were saying, oh my God, it's the summertime, I'd like to take it, but there's vacations, there's kids going camping, there's stuff that, we're cleaning the gutters. Who knew what they came up with?
Right.
But the ability to take a course that's this deep and this wide at your own pace as your life allows it is really an advantage.
It's huge.
You know what also is very, I think is very cool about it, and I don't know if we expected this or not the first time we did it, is that even though they're watching pre-recorded videos and listening to recorded audios, the experience is exactly as though it was live. It's like if you watch a television show that was recorded 3 hours earlier on the East Coast, but it's a live, it doesn't feel recorded when you watch it. And that's
right.
The way it is with these.
So you're saying this is like American Idol, is that right?
You could put it that way. I'm not sure why you would, but
where
this
is
is an example of
watching from?
What's that?
Where is Intrinsic Vox watching from, or is that just
He's from Toronto?
Up? Oh, right, same person. Got it.
And Intrinsic Vox, I'm resisting the impulse to start naming some people in Toronto to see if we
can resist that impulse.
Call them out.
Believe me, I know them all.
Oh, so I wanted to ask you guys, because I know a lot of people that are kind of like me, whether they're homeschoolers or just parents of young kids. I think I was kind of curious to know, and I don't know if I got an exact answer when I started taking the class last time. What does the time commitment actually look like once you're done with the class and you get a book? Because, people are busy. People have jobs. People have kids. Is it the kind of thing that you can voice an audiobook like in little chunks of time here and there, or do you have to sit down and read the whole thing? I think people are kind of curious about like, well, what is this really going to look like time-wise? Because I'm a working mom, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I'm a homeschooling mom, and I don't have all the time in the world. How does that work, or what have you heard from your students or personally experienced?
Well, you just described it. It depends entirely on you. I think that one of the misconceptions that people have about audiobooks is because when they look at the finished product, it's 10 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours, that somehow that was all spent in, a direct, complete 10 to 20 hour path to do this. When the truth is that these are lovely little sessions of 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You get 60 days to do a book. So it's not like you have to do it all in 1 day or 2 days. And it depends on what your other commitments are. I got nothing. I got no family. I got nobody wants to be in my sphere of influence. Nobody cares. But the point is, I have more time at my disposal than most people do. But then there are people, and even when I'm doing on camera work, I can't do audiobooks. If I'm doing a video game, I'm doing that. Whatever I'm doing, or if I'm teaching, or if I'm coaching. So it all depends on your schedule, and you can do it at your own pace. And if you're busy like Kat is, you can still do it, because look what she does. She brags about this all the time. Look at what I did this past weekend. I spent some time in my closet making some money.
Only because it's like 15 minutes for a little on hold. So that's great to know that it can also be done.
That's okay. How long would it take if you had a chapter that was 5 or 10 pages long? It might take you 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Who knows? It depends on how many mistakes you make. But, it's not much different.
That's good to know.
And so, again, you can do it at your own pace. Dan, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Just that probably when you go into audiobook narrating, you will fall into a pattern where each day, except when something interrupts it that's unexpected, each day you'll record at around the same time for around the same length of time. And you just do it automatically. It's like brushing your teeth. You get up, you do this, you do that. And this is the time in which I go into my booth or into my closet, whatever it is. And the muscle memory takes over. It just becomes part of your day, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked
that.
Some
people, by the way, real quick, some people, that's a requirement. Because if you've got a home studio, but it's like as soon as the leaf blowers start happening or the dogs start barking in the middle of the day or the kids are playing outside, you can't record because you can't make your space any quieter. Maybe the only time that you can record is 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
So it's possible that your environment will dictate how much time you spend and when you spend it.
Yeah, that's legit.
Hopefully
Especially
you
if you have
won't.
kids.
Well, hopefully you won't have what just happened here is after getting accustomed to the airplanes and the leaf blowers, the dogs, and working all that out, now I have 2 roosters next door.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and they're loud, and they don't know when dawn is, so they just do it all day.
So they're stupid roosters. On top of
well, I didn't say that because I don't want to get the rooster
I did.
mad at me, but yeah.
And you don't even live in Texas, and you have roosters next door.
I didn't realize that was just a Texan
thing here in California.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. So did that answer your question?
That did. That really did. Yeah, and that's helpful for me to know.
And that 60 days, if you've never done audiobooks, that's a really hefty space. You know,
it is.
You shouldn't be racing to meet that deadline if you've been doing it each day.
Sure.
Yeah, I think some people have worked in other areas for other people who do audiobooks. So for example, when I go and I work on an audiobook at Penguin Random House, I'm probably there for 3 or 4 days straight. I go there at 10 in the morning and I leave at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. But we still do these little islands all day long. You know, we do 20 minutes and then we go in the break room for 10 minutes or whatever. And I'm not even doing the editing and the mastering at that point. I'm just talking.
Recording.
They send it off to somebody else. But when you're working with ACX, you're doing your own engineering, and it's not hard at all. So to anticipate a potential question, no, it's not hard.
Wait a minute, David. What about to somebody who has never done any kind of audio?
No, it's not hard.
What about somebody who's never worked as a voice actor?
No, it's not hard.
I'm done.
Is that it? Is that all you got? Well, if anyone else has questions, please make sure to drop them in the comments. And as they come up, I mean, it's such a great opportunity to be here with you guys, because I don't know if everyone realizes people ask for David's autograph at events like Comic-Con or whatnot, because he's been on some big shows, Heroes, Lost. I don't know. You've been the voice of some pretty big names. I don't know if you're allowed to say. I don't want to out you and your clients if that's not allowed. But these guys are kind of a big deal. Dan O'Day has been in radio for I don't know how many years. If you want to
many,
4 or 5.
Just a couple. For many years, he's a guru when it comes to marketing and radio. So if there's ever a question that you wanted to ask a professional voiceover artist, guy in radio, market, any of your questions, especially as it relates to audiobooks and narrating audiobooks, please make sure you drop it in the comments below, and we'll try to get to them.
I want to blow Dan's horn. I want to make sure people understand, you know, what does a radio marketing guru have to do with audiobooks? I'll tell you right away. When you set up your profile on ACX, if you set it up wrong, you're about to shoot yourself in the foot. And Dan is one of the most skilled writers and managers of marketing material, which is what your profile is, that I know on the planet. His training in the ACX Masterclass is the first thing we talk about, other than what is ACX and what does it all mean. But his initial training on how to set up your profile, which is the first thing we talk about, is stunning. And it is so essential. It's the kind of thing that most actors just fly right by. You know, it's like, whatever. I just put my name in there, copy and paste my resume. That's all it really needs. Oh my God, what a mistake.
And the very first assignment we give, as you might recall, is going out and we give specific instructions, but check out, listen to 5 samples from let's say it's not nonfiction. Listen to 5 samples from genres you're interested in. Then listen to 5 that you're not interested in. And everybody, when they first get that assignment, they all go like that. And then when they come back, they say, holy cow. For one thing, they feel a lot more confident when they realize, yeah, there are hundreds of thousands of narrators on ACX, and almost all of them don't know what they're doing. And so the competition is a lot smaller than they realized.
Yeah.
It almost makes it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it makes me think of doing on-camera acting. My headshot, my resume, and my demo reel were hugely important to get me through any door. And so it's almost like you're saying, like your profile on ACX is similar, that's the first thing people are going to see.
Sure.
And make a decision based to at least progress based on how that looks.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that the rights holders, which is the term for the author or the publisher or someone who somehow owns the copyright, maybe they inherited it or something. The rights holder is looking for reassurance. So when they come to your profile, it differs from a traditional casting director in that plenty of times I've seen casting directors, going through the pile of pictures and that one, let's put that one in that small pile here. That looks like that might be Princess whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when a rights holder comes to your profile on ACX, they don't know what they're looking for. They know they're looking for a man or a woman, probably, but they don't have an archetype in mind. And so if you present yourself in a way that is appealing to them and allows them to read into it what they need to feel comfortable, that really does push you ahead of the game a little bit.
Yeah, your portfolio of samples is going to certainly be important. But the idea that you make your profile digestible as opposed to throwing everything in the universe that you have at it. You don't have to go back to when you played El Gallo in the Fantastics in middle school. But a lot of people do that because they figure, the more stuff I have in here, the more I possibly could appeal to somebody. But that's not the goal. So anyway, it goes a lot deeper, and it's one of hundreds of different little tiny skills that once you know them, you can execute them, but you got to know how important they are. It's not just about the mic. It's not just about,
soundproofing
your space. It's not about your breath when you're narrating. It's not about the editing process, which is super simple. That's part of what we do. But it is about running your business as a business. And you have to be at peace with the idea that you're an entrepreneur and you're marketing your services. And so I can't stress enough how important that part of the training is. The other part of training, super important as well. But understanding how to build your business and gain trust and confidence from the people that are going to be your production partners is super important.
Yeah, I know you've talked about that in the past, like when we've done your VO Heroes class, you talk about the business, the art, the mindset, and the science, aka technical gear and all that aspect. And I don't think that's something that everybody necessarily thinks about. I think the first thing, at least that people ask me when it comes to voiceovers, is, do I have the right voice? And I often tell them, well, most of the time it doesn't really matter in order to get into voiceovers, because everyone needs a different voice for something. I mean, it's just like during my commercial casting, am I the right look? Well, for what? There's so many different roles. So I think a lot of people think you need to be able to do all the different animation voices, and I have a good voice, whatever that means. And I'm like, well, I don't even like the sound of my own voice, but I get paid to talk, so I don't really care what I think about my voice.
We hear that a lot from civilians. They'll say, I mean, we can tell what the rest of the sentence is going to be. They'll say, you do audiobooks? People tell me you have a great voice and should do audiobooks. And it's lovely if you have a great voice, but it's not about your voice. It's about your desire and your willingness and your ability to tell a story. And the good news is the words are right there. You don't have to make up the story.
Mhm.
You just have to be the conduit. And we do get that question every single class. Do I have
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know if I should take the class. Is my voice good enough? The only way your voice is not good enough is if there is some serious physiological problem with it.
Right.
You're something about your vocal cords or something about your mouth that causes noises and I don't mean everyday mouth noises, but something really
Hard to be
terrible.
understood.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And very few people, fortunately, have an affliction like
Mhm.
that. So assuming that we can understand you, it's about your desire and your ability to tell a story.
And I would also add to your point before, David, about your willingness to learn the business, your willingness to learn the science. And I don't claim to be, Miss Technical Guru. I always get my chief technical officer, my husband, to help me with running Facebook Live, Instagram Live type things. But I'm willing to learn. And the things that you've taught me in the past, David, about setting up the software, and I remember when back in the day you came to my house and you came and set up the microphone, and I don't know if you remember that back in Norwalk. This was way back in the day. Yeah.
I remember the neighborhood that I drove into.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so pretty. This is so awesome. It was such a quintessential California neighborhood.
Yes, it was. It
Yeah.
was. My
Yeah.
husband's grandparents had lived there for a long time before. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know about the technical aspect, and I was like, I can't do it unless somebody comes and puts a microphone into my
We
house. And
show you all that in the
yes,
course.
right.
We even show you perspectives from how it should look from your chair.
I love
Like
it.
I do a video where it's behind the microphone, and this is how it should look in relation to the computer and how far away you should be. We talk about that. We also have something that you're not aware of that we just added in the last class and is going to be in this class. We have an even faster approach to the stair-step method. So
What?
when you were doing the stair-step method, we probably said, have your mouse over the buttons, right, to stop, fast forward, record. And now you have your fingers over a couple of keys.
Like control, like
Not even control. Not even, there's no second modifier, like no shift, no control, none of that. It's just over two keys. You talk, you talk, you talk, you make a mistake, boop, boop, and you keep talking.
wow.
And you pick it up. And that has been a super game changer. One of our graduates, Stuart Goffey, is an Audacity expert, and I worked with him to modify and improve the stair-step method even more. We're now getting work hours to finished hour ratios of like 1.4 to 1.
Now that you're not saying that's the average of our students across the
No,
board.
I said we're getting. Some people are getting. I'm
Are
getting.
able to do
'Cause
that. Yeah.
Just for those of you who are not familiar with the process, that's a very, very fast recording editing speed. And so if you join us in the class, you might become that fast, but we're not. That's really over the top fast. When Stuart first, I remember when he said, "Yeah, I just did a chapter. It was a 1 hour chapter, and it took me an hour and 15 minutes start to finish."
Yeah.
I thought, wow. But
part of that is not making many. Part of that is not making as many mistakes
as you record.
But it's also understanding the process of how we do the mastering, the editing, and the mastering, and having that be muscle memory that is easy for you to call up. We seem to be like jumping all over the place. Do you have any organized questions that you wanted to ask?
Well, as far
it's
as
kind
organizing,
of an insulting thing to say to our host.
no. Are you talking about organizing the digital aspect of it?
No. Just in general, did you have something like we're going here and we're going there, we're going here? Was there something that you had wanted to ask us, or I'm just offering this as because we seem like we're jumping around. So
and also questions that you're often asked by others.
Well, I think what would be the most compelling reason why someone would want to join this class? Because can I just find this on YouTube? Or
Sure.
aren't there a million of these voiceover classes? Or is it really that hard if I have a mic? Like
Yeah.
what have you found your students have? And I did see the free classes that you offered this week. But what have you heard personally as far as the most compelling reasons that somebody might benefit from this class?
I've got a number for you. 5,430. That is the number of audiobooks, to the best of our knowledge, probably higher because we don't know what everybody's been doing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the number of audiobooks that our graduates have produced and are on sale right now onto Audible.
Wow.
That's 1 out of every 30 books that comes out of ACX.
Jeez.
I still find that hard to
Mind-boggling.
comprehend.
It's boggling. It's mind-boggling, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the point is, what we teach, first of all, what we teach is simply what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the dirty little secret. This is the stuff that I do every day when I'm narrating audiobooks. This is how I do it. This is the gear that I use. This is the process that I use. This is the marketing techniques that I use, the client management techniques, the project management techniques that I use, even the messaging that I use. So I'm just going to say, this is what works for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really all I can teach confidently.
Yeah.
So, that's what I think other people that have done this work and maybe put up a few videos on YouTube or create a course where they're selling their knowledge. Maybe, I've done 200 books, over 200 books.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many because they didn't keep track of the books that I did in the 80s and the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't either. So I think there is a track record with what we've been doing that kind of speaks for itself.
Absolutely. Wow.
Well,
That's
okay,
very
but David, for all the people who heard that, some of them must be thinking, well, yeah, but you're this techie guy. You know all that stuff. So that doesn't mean that I can do it. I'm not technical.
It's not like I'm soldering things on a motherboard. I'm basically using Audacity, which is the software that we teach,
which is free,
and a process that doesn't require knowing punch and roll. For those of you that are watching this either live or on the recording, and you're like, oh yeah, I know how to do this, punch and roll, Pro Tools or Adobe Audition or whatever. I'm telling you, if you don't jump to that conclusion and you follow the process that we teach in the course, you're going to be so much happier. Yeah.
And that definitely includes those of you who have been told by some third party, oh, it's a nightmare with the editing. Oh, it's grueling. And, well, what they're saying is, I haven't learned a good way to record and edit. It doesn't mean it can't be done.
Right.
So please don't, whether or not you take our class, don't let someone dissuade you from pursuing audiobooks specifically because they've convinced you that it's a killer thing to do, because it's not. And actually, and I'm not an audiobook narrator, but when David talks about audiobooks, he always talks about just how relaxing it is for him. Just to get in.
It's great.
Into the story, and because I do know, I'm going to guess everyone here has been told by at least one person, or maybe in an online group or something, or a forum, they've been told, oh no, it's don't audiobooks. Oh my God. What they're saying is they just never learned it. And it's not hard.
Every day I read to my kids, and I have to say, I like at dinner tonight, we talk about our happy parts. What was your happy part from today? Everyone goes around the table.
What's your happy part?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We do happy parts. And so my happy part was reading the biography of Corrie ten Boom to my children. Now, the story itself wasn't so happy. She's captured in Nazi Germany and suffering, but the story was riveting and exciting. And after one chapter, I'm like, okay, well, we'll put it away for today. No, one more chapter, please. So we ended up reading 3 chapters, and it's just the highlight of my day. So I get it when you say, and as a mom of young kids, I think a lot of my followers and friends on Insta and Facebook are also parents of young kids and a lot of homeschoolers like me. A lot of our day is spent giving out, pouring out. And when I just get to lock myself in my little closet, it's me and my microphone and a piece of copy.
Mhm.
I kind of feel myself relax a little bit. It's just something I get to do for fun. I happen to get paid for it. And I love to read. I love to listen to audiobooks as well as, paper books. So to be able to do both of those, the voiceover, get the reading in, I mean, that's what appeals about it to me.
Yeah.
And what you described is pretty much exactly what we say are the requirements to succeed as an audiobook narrator. You have to like to read. You have to like to tell a story, and you have to be able to tell a story well enough so that the person to whom you're telling it doesn't run screaming from the room.
And the good news is that you attract that kind of person. I see people making comments under your stuff on Instagram, and they're all amazed that you have this as a pursuit along with being a mom. And I think everybody has other things that they do. I mean, I do on-camera work. I do other categories of voiceover work. I certainly teach and coach, and audiobooks is just part of that sort of portfolio of opportunity for me.
I love it. And I imagine that there's fears, though, that people have, right? And I think you addressed some of these in your first of the free classes that you offered last week, which you can still see, I believe, at bit.ly/voice audiobooks. I think today and tomorrow you can still see those classes. But some of the fears that people have, you address those because they're in the forms of myths. A lot of people have these preconceived notions of, well, I could never do that because, and we kind of address I don't have the time for it, or I don't have the right voice. And so what are some other big fears that you've come across, people who have either started taking your class, considered taking your class? What are some of like the biggest fears of, I could never do that?
Well, obviously, one of the big fears is failure. I'm going to fail at, pronouncing a word properly. I'm going to fail at the technology. There's a fear in general of the technology. I'm going to break something. And those fears are understandable, but 99.9% of the time are not real. You're not going to hurt anything. You're going to make mistakes. Don't be fearful of it. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. There's going to be, I imagine you look back when you first started, maybe things didn't work out as much as you thought they would, or as well as you thought they would, or weren't recorded very well. Maybe you selected the wrong mic by mistake. Who knows? The point is, you learn, you get better, you don't make that mistake likely again, and you move on. Right. No harm, no foul. Everybody goes through it. And I won't get work. I won't make any money. The equipment's too expensive. Man, I can't tell you. Like, here's the problem with the gear that we recommend and that I use. It used to be that I could say, yeah, this is a USB microphone. I know you've heard, don't use a USB microphone. It's illegal, or it's immoral, or it just doesn't work as well. And I'm here to tell you that it does. And it was based
right
on, let me finish. Hold on. And you can tell, here's one indicator that you can tell is by the price. This isn't a $60 microphone, a cheap ass microphone, right? It was $179. So you could tell. But then Audio-Technica, which makes the microphone that we recommend and that I use every single day for everything that I do, they dropped the price down to $60.
Actually, I think it's 69 or 67.
No, it's $59.88.
Yeah, it's in the 50s. It's in the 50s now.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's
so I'm like, I can't even use that as a clean metric,
Right.
Well, and I think the fact that they're selling it at such a low price actually makes it harder for people to believe.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you walk to a car dealer who's got a beautiful souped up sports car, but it's only $800. And you're like, what's wrong with this?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So-
too cheap to be believable, but it is. It's what I've always used.
And when
And I
someone
know.
says to you, especially often it's an audio engineer, when someone says to you, USB, you can't use a USB microphone for professional work. They are right about almost every USB microphone,
There's a lot of bad ones.
but
Yeah.
not every one.
No.
You know, there is nothing about the connector that a USB plug provides
Mhm.
that can't carry the sound into your computer. It's just that almost all USB microphones are done as cheaply as possible. They use the cheapest parts, and that's fine because they're selling it to people who, they just need it for want to get past their podcast or to whatever it is they're doing.
They're playing video games with friends. They're playing Call of
Yeah.
Duty or
No,
whatever.
they're wearing a microphone, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But you
Mhm.
can't do audiobooks
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah. So fear of failure, I hear that though. I mean, I think we're
Yeah.
all afraid of failing in some way. And some
Is
are
it-
more.
Or they have to be perfect. I can't
Mm.
make mistakes. I can't
Mm.
make any mistakes in what I'm doing. Well, I do all the time.
Mhm.
And I used to get like angry with myself when I was first starting off. Like, oh, why did I say that? Why did I say Tuesday instead of Thursday?
Mhm.
And now it's like, I don't know. It's just going to happen. It's human.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Why worry about it? Just move on.
It's a learning opportunity.
It is strange when I go over my own work and I'll discover that I was supposed to say from, and I said turkey or whatever. It's like, wait, how did you? What's the problem here? But that happens.
It
I'm
happens.
wondering if anyone is experiencing this. If maybe they put it in the chat. Is there anyone here who is fearful of the technical side of learning how not just to record but also to edit, and you feel like,
Too crazy.
that's a mystery. I'm sorry, I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd be interested to find out if anybody has
Yeah.
that feeling, because it certainly is common.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Especially with people that have been kind of raked over the coals by some sort of security issue, or they've installed something and it didn't work right for them, or something crashed on one of their devices or their computer. They're fearful of the technology in general and how reliable it is.
Mhm.
And I can tell you that one of the reasons that we teach Audacity and that we teach this method that I have is it's rock solid.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's one thing that you don't really have to be fearful of, but I can certainly understand why you might be.
Right. Right. And I think a lot of people might think, well, could I really be the voice of an audiobook after one little class that takes like a month to go through or so?
Well,
How
I
long
would think that we would correct them on one little class because it's
Mhm.
not little, and
Mhm.
it's a series. It's a very deep. It's hundreds of hours. It's at least a medium-sized class. But when you look at it and you go, okay, one class is going to show me how to do all this. That's why we call it a course.
It's a course.
And and I think that we don't just teach one part of this. I looked at my entire practice, my entire audiobook practice, and I said, I want to give everybody everything.
Hmm.
There's nothing that I hold back from what I do, how I judge projects, how I deal with my customers, my clients,
Mhm.
how I deal with ACX itself, how I deal with the world of audiobooks, even nonfiction performance versus fiction performance, and how similar they are.
Hmm.
There's little tiny things that people tell themselves, mostly because they don't know the facts,
Mhm.
but they don't like that uncertainty. I don't like being, I don't know. I'll make it up if I have to. There's all these things that once you get the actual truth about, you go, oh, okay. So that doesn't seem so hard. Yeah.
Mhm. That's good. Were you going to say something, Dan?
I was too fascinated listening to David.
His
I
face.
find it when he speaks, it's mesmerizing.
And if people, go ahead.
Just that if you've never edited anything, let's say, audio or video or anything, I understand why it might be really scary to you
Yeah.
because, and what happens, I always find this fascinating, what happens in the brain. When we say there's this method of editing that's easy and it's fast, your mind tries to picture it. It spins around
Mm,
trying to land on the picture, but it can't because it has no idea
right.
what's involved. And so
Yeah.
that can be scary. It can be frustrating. The thing about when you said common fear is, is anybody ever going to really hire me to do an audiobook?
Hmm.
I believe both of us were surprised the very first time we taught the ACX master class. We definitely would not have advertised this as something to expect, but we had a couple of people book jobs, be hired to narrate audiobooks before the class ended. And I so clearly remember somebody has offered one because what happens is we teach them how to create their profile, how to put up their
Mhm.
samples, and so they've got stuff already visible to rights holders in ACX. And I so clearly remember the first time was somebody was offered a book in her second week of the class,
Wow.
and she called me up, and what do I do? And I said, and she had never done any of this stuff. And I said, look, I know you think that if you say no, you'll never get another chance,
Hmm.
but you will get other chances. And my opinion is really learn how the process works
Mm.
rather than trying to, I got to meet this deadline. Oh, I don't know how to do. Okay, let me come back and see if I can
Hmm.
learn how to do this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Every class we've taught, uh, at least one person has booked a gig before the end of the class, right?
That's
We've
amazing.
booked two books before the end of the class. So
Wow. That's
it's
amazing.
it's not difficult, but if you have no idea how it works, then it's
Hmm.
impossible. That's all.
So is that one of, I'm curious, what is your favorite part about teaching these classes? Is it those moments when a person who has never recorded anything in their life is like, I just got asked to voice an audiobook? Or is it like, what is it? What are those moments? Or just what is it about teaching this class that you really enjoy? Because I know that you could just have your career in radio. David, you're a working actor and you've got all these other things going on. You don't need this class. You're not like making ends meet because of this class. I know that you've got a ton of credits behind your name. What drives you? What is the joy for you in teaching this class?
Oh, it's definitely soul feeding. It's
Mm,
definitely soul feeding. And there is a moment, I don't think I've even shared this with Dan, but there is a moment in across the weekend between the third week of the class and the fourth week of the class. On that Friday, we assign we make an assignment. And the assignment is to take one of the, I don't know, 16 samples that we have and follow the procedure that we've just taught you
mm-hmm,
to record, edit, and master your choice of samples, and then post it in our communities. We have a Facebook community. For those that don't like Facebook, we have a private on-site community. The
mm-hmm,
Facebook community is also private, but you have a couple of masterminds, which are really the other secret sauce of our course because it's so supportive and so cooperative and everything. Post them, post your work, and show us that you have accomplished what we set out to teach you.
mm-hmm,
And that moment when I know they've done it right, when it doesn't matter what the performance is,
mm-hmm.
it's always great. It's always surprising. I'm getting emotional.
Yeah.
It's when you see the result of what you've given somebody as a set of tools
Mm.
and they use them. That's awesome to me.
I, for me, what do you say the most rewarding? Was that the question,
Yeah,
Kat?
like yeah, what brings you joy specifically about teaching this class?
I never would have expected this before we did it. And it wouldn't occur to me to talk about it in promoting the class
Mm-hmm,
because it seems so crazy. But what I wasn't expecting was to hear from some students how they went from whatever job they were doing
Mhm.
to doing audiobooks full time, and how much their life has changed. And I would, if we were
Mm.
to advertise it or promote it, I wouldn't be saying, how would you like to do audiobooks full time? Because most people don't. Most narrators, that's part of their toolbox.
Mhm.
But the fact that some have, and they've sent us some really nice notes talking about the impact it had on their lives. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting that people would think the stuff we were teaching was valuable and it would help them. But the idea that somebody changed their careers as a result, to me, is remarkable, and it is the exception.
Mm. That's wonderful. It reminds me of when my kids learned how to read.
Hmm.
And as their teacher, I've been homeschooling them since the 12-year-old was, 4. There's nothing like it because it's like I've just helped you unlock endless possibilities. And I get emotional when I think about it too. Like I
Yeah.
remember, the hammock that we swung on as we would read, and then you started sounding out those words, and oh my gosh, it's like, okay, you are free to go do whatever you
Fly
want now.
away. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's really sweet to know. And I
Yeah.
can
Or
personally,
when one of our students gets nominated for an Audie.
which is like the Oscars of the audiobook world,
Yeah.
for
Right.
those that don't
That's
know.
yeah.
That's
And
huge.
yeah, that, or they get hired the first time by a big publisher. The last module of the course is called Beyond ACX, and it's basically taking everything that we've been teaching you about how to work on ACX
Mhm.
and then applying it to all the other opportunities in the business, the big publishers, the other platforms, producers, etc. And when I see somebody uh, do that kind of work with that kind of dedication, and I know that they've created what's just been nominated or what's just been reviewed in AudioFile magazine or is now available on sale, and I know that they've done that with the process that we've presented to them and offered to them as a potential solution. Oh my gosh, it's just like it just I burst with pride. It's
Mm.
crazy.
Yeah, I get audio files, free easing email newsletter, and absolutely one of my favorite things to do. They come once or twice a week, I think. Is I'll look through. They got various titles that they're, this was just released or whatever, and
Mhm.
I look through to see if any of the narrators are our people,
Mhm.
and if they are, that makes that makes my week. Look, one of the people they're highlighting is somebody who 2 years ago didn't know how to turn on a microphone.
Isn't that
Um,
awesome?
it-
Wow.
and to be clear, that doesn't mean we get credit. It just means we showed them where the microphone was and we got out of the way.
Yeah.
Well, I think that you should get some credit because you showed them where the microphone was, and you
Okay.
showed them a whole hundreds of hours of other things that helped them to get it.
Yeah.
So you guys have your now registration is open for your big class. And how often does registration open for that? Some people were asking me, like when can I do this? Maybe right now is not a good time. Will they open again? I said, I'm just going to ask them today and have them answer that. And what
Yeah,
is
we usually open once or twice a year. We don't know from year to year if we're ever going to do it again. We're hoping we do, but we don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bigger question there. The question is, say you decide now, today, end of June, beginning of July isn't a great time. What about mid-July? What about August? What if you're able to do it then? And you don't have to wait until next year if we do the class. The fact that you have access to all the materials forever
Mm-hmm.
is something that should help you answer the question, if not now, then when? And if it's just a temporary, setback, I'm really busy right now, I'm finishing up a project, or, I've got the kids at camp for 2 weeks and I can't, I would think that that would be a good time to start this. And certainly with our business, currently with the writer's strike going on and the potential of an actor's strike,
Mm-hmm.
now is a great time to up your game with various things that you likely don't have time to do when you are working, when you are
Right.
auditioning, when you are doing callbacks and so on. And for anybody who's watching this that's a union actor, we hear the phrase, we're going to strike, and we go, oh, that's it, there's no more work. But the truth is, we're only striking one contract. We're striking the primetime theatrical contract. That's it, if we go on strike. Everything else that we do as actors, all other voiceover categories, on-camera commercials, video games, audiobooks, they continue. And that's a way of making money. So I think there's a lot to be considered, that maybe sometimes you go, I just can't turn my attention to it. Okay.
Well, and I actually am picking up on this from somebody in the audience. I'm not sure. Does your name include a B? I think so. Where somebody is saying, yeah, I want to do this, but I think I'll wait for a more convenient time. There is no such thing. Kat, when's the last time you just had nothing to do? You were caught up with everything. And you think, oh, what should I do with my day now that I have all this convenience?
Because when I was on my honeymoon, and for that period only.
Yeah, it just doesn't. Maybe in the old days it was different, but now I don't remember. I literally don't remember a day when I didn't have tons of stuff to do.
Yeah. I mean, even during COVID, our business did not, my business did not take a hit. I actually had more business coming in during the lockdown, and I was able to do it from home, and so grateful for that opportunity, and grateful that I had taken the classes previously so that I could continue to work when it sadly wasn't an option for a lot of people, not just actors. So that's
it is quite a remarkable, I want to say gift, but that sounds too like I'm hyping us, an advantage to know that it doesn't really matter what else is happening in the world.
Right.
Once you've set up your equipment, your closet, or whatever you're going to do it at home, you can always go there and do your work. And that's remarkable to me.
I agree. And it sounds like you guys are offering a deal too for people.
Golly gosh, I wish I knew the link that would be appropriate for people to type in. Oh, look at that!
There it is.
What happened there? Oh my gosh!
Amazing.
Yeah, we're offering registration this week only. It actually closes for good on Friday. But as we're recording this, there's a special early action bonus price that's good through tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Pacific. And it's $300 less than the full tuition. And that's a significant savings. You could buy the gear and still have $200 left over to go celebrate at a nice dinner.
Right.
Or just,
or to buy us a nice gift.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but okay. What we want to do is be careful with your assets, careful with your resources. And, if you're serious about this, if it's something that you really want to do, if it's something that you look at Kat, you go, well, how did you do this? And you get your questions answered. And Kat is one of those people who is real. Like, she's a real mom who's doing this stuff. What are you doing? That's what I think. I always think to myself when I wake up in the morning, what am I doing that Kat's able to do?
Every morning he wakes up and asks.
Exactly.
I think the same thing when I wake up. That's weird.
Yeah. So we have opportunities at various points in our lives of making a change for the better. And when you're given an opportunity to do that, it's a very good idea to really examine it directly and to see if it's something that makes sense. And if you're here and you're watching this, there's likely either you're a big fan of Kat Negretti or you want to do audiobooks or both. And if you are, I can't imagine another option for you that's as easy to put together and as inexpensive to get the gear and outfit your space at home with what we show you, and then build your business
Mhm.
on a site that is owned by a company that's owned by Amazon. It's not going away anytime soon. You know, this is a golden opportunity for people to make a difference in their future, especially if this is something that you've looked at for a while. And like, if you meet somebody, like if you met Kat at a party, and you said, "What do you do for a living?" "Oh, I'm a voiceover talent. I do audiobooks and I do commercials." And audiobooks, really? And all of a sudden you're like, your mind is going, "I've been thinking about that." Well, here's your chance.
It's funny that David would say that, because from the very beginning, I have been fond of saying that, unlike most professions, when somebody says, "What do you do?" and you say, "I'm an audiobook narrator," invariably their response is just what David said. "Really?"
Mhm.
It's invariably, "Really?"
Mhm.
Because many people have thought about it and how cool that would be and how much fun, but either they didn't know how to start, or they were waiting for a more convenient time.
Yep. Yep.
But that really, it's the universal response. It's yeah, butchers don't get that a lot, you know?
Oh, you cut meat.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
I'm thinking
Yeah,
of, yeah.
yeah.
And I get it.
Hey,
I mean, it's a fun job recording voiceovers for a living. And I've gotten that response a lot. And finally, I always just say, just go check out David Lawrence. Just go check out David Lawrence. And, sometimes people do and sometimes people don't. But finally, I was like, I need to just gather all of these people that kind of I don't know, or that I've met at a party, or, whatever, on Instagram, and put them in one place. I got an email group set up so that when you do offer these opportunities, which I think are super valuable. I don't know if anyone got a chance to see all 3 free classes last week. I for sure watched them. Let me know in the chat, though, if you did get to see them. I'm like, I'm just going to let you know when he offers these classes. And because I, I don't know how often you're going to offer free classes. I think it's very generous that you do, because they are very valuable. They add value to my life, to anyone who watches them. They're very eye-opening, and they're from a person who has been doing it and around, been doing it with people who've been doing it for a while. So I just think they're very valuable. I thought, I'm just going to let people know. And that's why I wanted to do this live, so that they could hear directly from you, well, what about this, or what about that?
hmm.
Um, so so yeah, I'm so grateful that you guys took the
Oh,
time
thank
to
you.
do this. And I just want to know, is there any other, I want to wrap up too and honor your time. Is there any kind of closing remarks you would want to say, as far as encouraging, uh, especially, I want to say, the parents in the room who are kind of like, man, I need some extra money and I do like to read. Could I do it? Could I devote the time? Could I invest in this class? It's $300 off is great, but still, it's like the course, it's not a $10 course.
It ain't cheap.
Yeah. So how would you encourage those people that are kind of on the fence, thinking like, is this really going to pay off?
I'll let David take that, because I can't predict for without knowing the person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would be very reluctant to predict their success.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In fact, if anything, I would discourage people from assuming that they would have the kind of success that I have, or the kind
Mm-hmm.
of success that our best students have.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I couldn't predict, because I don't know how much you'll engage with
Mm-hmm.
what we do.
Right.
I don't know how much time you'll have to put into learning what we do,
Mm-hmm.
or to practice what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say, don't let fear get in the way. Don't let fear of
Mm-hmm.
failure get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Just look it in the face and go, yeah, no, I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm not, but don't let fear be the deciding factor.
Right.
And the feelings that are inside you. You might, inside you, it might be, yeah, I would like to be an audiobook narrator. Or inside you, it might be, I don't know what the big deal is. That doesn't sound like much fun to me.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. You don't do it. You know,
Don't do it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It certainly is not a get rich quick operation.
Right. And you've never promoted it as such. I mean,
No, we have people who ask us, well, how long is it going to take for me to make my money back?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this is for the next 24 or 26 hours or so. This is a $1,695 course. After that, it's a $1,995 course. So it's a couple grand or just shy of that either way.
Yeah.
And there are people who say, well, how long will it take me to make my money back? And my answer to them is, I don't know. And anybody who tells you a time is someone that you want to turn around from and walk away, because they can't predict what you're going to have in terms of opportunities. They can't predict what kind of success rate you'll have in taking what we share with you and putting it to use. They don't know what kind of time commitment you have in the future. I don't know. If you've got a full-time job, you can only do this at night and on the weekends.
Right.
So
that's going to be different than for someone who can devote.
Exactly.
And I can't think of any performing art in which you can answer the question, how long do you think it'll take before I get the cost of my training back?
Right. Or small business.
Or small business.
Or any, it's the number one thing is you. And it doesn't mean, are you talented enough? It means, are you brave enough to learn something new? Because I think this is where David and I diverge on one point, where David sees it as fear of failure, and what I see is fear of the unknown. That people can't, like I say, they can't imagine, they can't see themselves doing that because they don't know how to do it, and that's scary. And fear, that's a universal fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
The only way to make that go away is to give up wanting it or to learn how to do it, and then it's no longer unknown.
And then there's a third fear.
Go ahead.
Then there's a third fear, and that is the fear that you might just be successful. There is a fear that you will learn how to do this, and you will be able to do this. Now you have to do it because you now have proven you can. There's a famous quote that's variously attributed to Nelson Mandela and Marianne. She ran for president. Marianne, I can't remember her name.
We'll call her Marianne.
Yeah, probably Marianne Hartley, who did the Polaroid commercials with James Garner. Is that who you're thinking of?
No. But she says, it's not that we have a fear of failure. It's that we have a fear that we are built for this, that we have the ability to be successful. And that puts pressure on us that if we just fail, we don't have to worry about it because we feared it. It happened. We were truthful. That's it. We're good. Marianne Williamson. That's who it is. And, we are artists, and not doing something that we know we'd be successful at, sharing our art with other people, doing audiobooks, doing narration, doing voiceover, doing on camera, is robbing the world of our light. It's robbing the world of what we're capable of doing. I would hate to think that Kat Negretti at some point decided, yeah, I'm not going to do the voiceover stuff anymore. I'm not going to do the acting stuff anymore. Just think what a lesser world this would be if that was the case. So the fear of success is often something that stops them. It's like, well, what if I'm good at this? What if I can actually do this? Yeah.
That really resonates with me. Thank you. That's really powerful. I wonder if you would mind, if we can bring Kimberly Negretti's question to the board. She says, I think it's awesome and sounds amazing, but startup is my problem. I don't have $2,000 sitting around and also money to buy equipment. So then I would have to 100% save money for a substantial time to do so. I think it's cool you're doing this, but that's the biggest thing that would be my obstacle. So thank you so much, Kimberly, for sharing that comment. And I think it's understandable. It's an investment. And I think it kind of reminds me of a question that my other friend asked me, but I want to give you guys time to answer her challenge. But a friend of mine was saying, so when you pay the money for this class, are you really just paying for like to get into the industry? Like, these people, and so they're kind of getting, and I was like, no, you're paying for
I don't. I'm not that well connected.
Well, I
I'm
don't
not like the kingmaker where I'm like, hey, I'll introduce you to the casting people at Penguin Random House if you give me
right.
that's not
No,
it.
no.
I'm giving you an actual toolkit.
Yeah.
It's not who I know, it's
Right.
what I know and how to use what I know.
Right. That's
But
what I say.
I certainly hear what Kimberly has to say.
Mhm.
It's like any other decision that you would make about college
Right.
or a university or a vocational course or getting, guidance or coaching from a coach or a consultant.
Mhm.
It's not inexpensive.
Right.
And you got to look at, what the result may be if you put what you learn to use and what kind of profit you can make from that. I don't know,
Mhm.
but I do know what this is valued at and what its value is.
Mhm.
And if this is we tell people all the time, don't do this if this is going to put any sort of financial strain on you whatsoever.
Mm.
Just don't do it. I don't want that on my conscience.
Sure.
I don't want anybody thinking, "Oh my God, I went out and I borrowed money," and you know, I just don't. I say I just I think Dan's the same way. I just tell people don't do it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Kimberly's like, I get it for sure.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I once saw, what we're doing, what David and I are doing right now, is what's known as an internet lunch.
Mhm.
Launching a class. And I remember years ago watching a video for somebody, some kind of class online,
Mhm.
and they said, well, what if you don't have if you can't afford, you think you can't afford it? So even if you have to spend your very last dime, you owe it to yourself to join us. And I remember thinking something I can't repeat on mic. But after that, ever since then, I thought, we don't want your last dime.
Please don't. Yeah.
I don't want to be involved in making
Mm.
it so you don't know how you're going to eat next week.
Right.
And
No.
so if someone just doesn't have access to the money right now, they don't. And we understand, we
Right.
relate to, hey, both David and I come out of radio. We know what it's like not to have money um, or respect. But I don't have any snappy comeback to someone who
Mhm.
says, sounds great. I just don't have the money.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
So,
I mean, what I said is, she said, thanks for just having David say my name. Haha, my son's favorite show was Lost. Oh, so her son might recognize David then. That's fun.
Yes.
What I told my friend who was asking me about the cost is I said, no, it's not an in to get in. I mean, it's not that. It is an education. And I remember when I was at UCLA paying $16,000 a year for my education. I think it's what it was. Now I'm
Yeah.
sure it's way more.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
remember being totally aghast and impressed that I think it was in the 80s, the late 80s maybe, that I was told for the first time that if you're a California resident, you can go to a UC school for $1,000 a year. And I was like, "What?"
was that real?
Yeah.
well, before that, tuition was either free or so close to free that you might as well call it, a decade earlier.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not that anymore. It would be
Yeah.
nice
No.
if everything was free, but no. Unless you guys have any parting words of wisdom, I want to wrap up this live and definitely thank you. Do you have any last things to say? It looks
I
like
just want to
something's
thank you.
percolating.
I just want to thank you for being such a lovely supporter over the years and for inviting us to be with you. And I think that your generosity is pretty clear because I see you adding to comments under your videos on Instagram and elsewhere, and I just love your generosity. I really do.
You know what, Kat? Offhand, of the X number of interviews that we've done, people we've talked to, let's say in the last year, seriously, you are the most relaxed and most natural that I've encountered. Now, probably that's because of Xanax or something. But
Definitely. I'm shooting up on the side.
yeah, no, but seriously, it's if you have any nervousness in you, and you might, boy, can't tell it. You just seem so relaxed and pleased to be where you are. And that's if that's accurate at all, yeah, treasure that.
Oh, well, thank you. I credit God. He gives me peace, and I also credit my friendships with you both. I really feel honored to have been under your tutelage, to have for so many years gotten the goods. And oh, thanks, Kimberly. I love you guys. It's just truly, truly a gift, and I have no hesitation when people ask me about my voiceover career in pointing them your way. So
Thank you.
I'm super, super excited to finally be able to complete the ACX Masterclass course. And I have a goal, and I'm going to just share it here so that I can kind of like hold myself accountable, that by not this year's Christmas card, but next year's Christmas card, I want to put that I have started my audiobook recording career and added that to my voiceover. So that's my
Awesome.
personal goal.
Awesome.
And
Thank you for having us.
Within reach too.
Yeah. If other people have questions and maybe they're seeing this on replay, is the best way to reach you through the website on the screen, bit.ly/voice audiobooks, or where else should we send them to?
No, that's great. There's a link for the lessons, the free courses, or the free classes that we gave last week that talk about the audiobook industry, ACX, the myths, the truths, etc. And underneath each one of those videos is comment space. Okay. So please just put it there. And the best part about doing it that way, as opposed to sending us email personally, is that everybody else gets to see your question. And everybody else gets to see the answer that we give. So it's a service to everybody else as well.
And if somebody has not seen those 3 free courses that released last week, when is the cutoff date for that? I know you said for this Friday is the cutoff date for registering for the main class. I'm assuming that's the Friday at 9 p.m. Pacific. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
And
but
same deadline tomorrow night for the $300 discount on the course.
Right.
Okay, so Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, if you want to save $300 on the course, and then Friday, 9 p.m. Pacific, if you that's when you can get it together to take the course.
Yep.
Or see the free classes.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. I can't wait to see you in the website, in the course.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, it was wonderful having you. I really appreciate it.
See you guys later.
I think that's our signal that we have to go now, because David.
Only because I have to pick up my kids.
Okay.
Otherwise, we could do this for a long time.
If anybody does have any questions for David or me, we're easy to find. Throw them our way. And if this is right for you, then we'll look forward to seeing you in class.
And they will respond. You guys have an amazing rate of respond. They're not going to leave you hanging and ghosting you. So I really appreciate that. Awesome. You guys have a wonderful rest of your evening, and thank you for taking the time to talk with my friends today.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Good. Me too. All right. See you guys later.